In this video, we're going to start working with Telegram's bot API, and hopefully we'll get the basics working for now. So instead of other videos that are already on YouTube that use pre-existing Python libraries, I'm going to be using everything from scratch. So basically, we're going to make our own HTTP calls based on their documentation, which I think would be interesting to follow, as we could learn how to learn, or actually how to read the APIs and implement different APIs, and we'll get more familiar with their API, and hopefully we'll use what we learn in this video in the future videos and series. Okay, so what I have here is their bot API. So let's just go back to their main page. So this is some basic information about their bot API, what you can do with it, like stickers, different inline search. And to get to the documentation, let's see how we can get to the documentation from here. Bot API, somewhere over here. But if you wanna, you can copy this link, or I'll post it in the description of this video. Okay, so let's take a look at important stuff here. So the main thing that we want to look at is that there is a main URL that we need to call, and then there are different methods such as get me or send message or send photo, I think, which would do different things based on what we want to do. So everything up to this point is common for every API call. We'll accept this token over here, which is the token of our own bot, and we should replace this part with the token that we get from the bot fodder, which I'm going to show in this video. Alright, so let's start with, let's actually start with Telegram. So I have a Telegram account over here. There's nothing on it. And then what we want to do is message bot fodder, and then this is the main way that we can interact with Telegram bot management system. So you can create a bot, you can give it different names. So let's click on start, and then it gives us a bunch of options. So for example, you can create new bots, you can view your bots, which I don't have any here. Set name, set description, set about text, set user pick, and all of these different things. So let's just go with new bot, and it asks you to give it a name. So let's say our YouTube bot or something like that. And then you would need to give it a username, which have to end in bot. So like this or like that. So let's just give it, I don't know, test YouTube bot. That one's taken. My YouTube bot or something. Everything's taken. My cool bot. Ah, I should have prepared for this. So let's see. Basic one bot or something like that. Jeez. Okay, let's see. Let's just call it pizza dough bot. Okay, this one wasn't taken. Okay, so as you can see here, it says that we were able to create a bot. This is how we can access it. The username should be somewhere. Well, this is the username, but you can put an @ sign beneath behind it and make it a username. So if you click on it, here's our bot. You can start it, but it doesn't do anything because we haven't programmed it at all. And then this is the API that I was talking about. So if you look at here, it says these are the main methods. Sorry, this is the main URL. The token goes here, and then method name. So now that we have our bot token or API token, let's go here to Visual Studio Code and start programming. So I open a new folder here for this project, and what I'm going to do is create two files, so main.py and then bot.py, which should show up here. So my plan is to implement anything regarding the bot itself and how we interact with the API in bot.py, and then do the rest of like our simple testing for now in the main py. This way we can follow we can have a good practice rather than putting everything in a single file. So, um, got it. Okay. So now what we want to do is let's create a class called a bot, and then this class we would make an instance of it, pass it our API token, and then anything we want to do with the API, we would want to use this class. So basically, we're wrapping this class around the API. So we turn it into a Python way of interacting with the API. So first of all, the main thing that we want to pass to this class is the API token. So if I make an initializer, and then we just pass it the token, self token equals token, and basically that's all for now. Now if we go to our main, we can import bot. So from bot import bot, and if we want to run this, everything's working. And then we make a new instance of bot, call bot, and then we give it a token that we got here. Alright, that's pretty simple and does the basic job for us. So if we save this, hit run again, or if you don't have this environment, you can just type in python 3 main.py and nothing should happen, which is a good sign. So now we have the bot. Let's see what we need to do in Telegram. Okay, so over here you can see all the different sections that are available for you, and then for now we want to go to available methods, and the main important one, or the first method that we want to use, is getMe. So what getMe does is it calls the API with your token and asks their API to tell you who this token belongs to, and then it's used to see like whether it's an actual valid token or it's an invalid token, and then it tells you some information about the bot. So let's actually start with this. Now again, if we go back to this, that was a huge jump. If we go back to this, one good thing we can do is we can have the base URL over here. So we would say self base URL equals this, and then we would just add our token here. So now if we go back to main and then print bot base URL, we should see our base URL. And as expected, it comes all the way to here. So anytime we add a new function over here, we would just append the method name to it. Okay. Now going back to available methods, we have getMe, which it says a simple method for testing your bot's auth token. Requires no parameter, returns the basic information about the bot in form of a user object. So the cool thing is here we have available types. So if I open this in a new tab, and then basically any JSON response from the API would be in form of one of these. So it makes parsing the data much easier. So for example, in user, what happens is when you make a getMe request, it returns you a user object, and then this user object represents our own bot. So and then it would be in this form. So if we go back here and then we implement this new function getMe, and then what we want to do is make this call this base URL with getMe appended to it. But to be able to do make HTTP requests, we need to have a HTTP framework or library in Python, and there are quite many of them. There are a bunch of them that are asynchronous. There are a couple that are there are many that are synchronous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a method just for making requests. And then the reason behind this is that in case, well, we're going to write everything synchronous, and if you don't know what the difference between synchronous and asynchronous is, don't worry about it right now. But I'm just doing this way to separate our code from just directly calling library methods. So in case we want to change something later, we can have a single source that we could change, and that would be applied to everywhere that we're calling this method. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a class method. Actually, this could be a static. Yeah. Let's see. So we would want to access this base URL. So let's actually make it not static. So def get request, and then we want to have def. I think there's a put request or post. Let's see. Yeah. So Telegram only supports get and post, which makes our job really easy. So we have get request and post request, and that's that for now. So basically, what we want to do is in our get me, we would say um, self get request, and then here we want to pass it the method. So basically, this method name. So instead of passing all of this, we would let our get and post method, post request handle all these URL modifications, and we would just say our method is get me, and then basically that's all we need to do here. So we get a result from this, and then we can just print result for now. Now going back to our get request, as we can see we have a method, so method, and the same thing goes for post. And then I'm not gonna implement the post request now until we have a use for it. So next thing that we need is to import the request library. So Python requests, and request is a HTTP library on top of I think URL lib. I'm not exactly sure how to implement it, but basically we can just say request.get, pass it the URL, and then whatever argument or parameter we want to pass it, like JSON or headers or authentication, and then you can tell it to give it a timeout and a bunch of other stuff. So installation, you would want to do where's the pip installation? So basically what you want to do is say pip3 or whatever pip version you're using, install requests, and then that's it. So now if we come up here, we can say import requests, and that should be good. Okay, what's wrong over here? It's saying you resolve the function over. Okay, so it's telling us that this doesn't have any return, which we would fix right now. Okay, so now let's just add some documentation here, and we say that let's go up here. So in case someone else wants to read our code, they have a better understanding of what's going on. It says a simple method for testing your bot token. Test bot auth token. Just to make it shorter, we can put something back. I can see it's really hard to read this. I will change the font later or the colors. Okay, so now here that we have the method, we want to make a URL, and the URL would be self base URL plus method. And then we return request get URLs URL. Later on, when we want to post or have different parameters here, we would add the rest to it. So for now, everything should be fine. Let's save this. What's wrong with this? Oh, I'm missing self here. Sorry about that. Okay. So now that we're in our get me, we're calling get request, giving a method, getting our result back, and then printing a result. And over here, we make the get request. We make a URL from our base URL plus the method, and then using this request library, we give it a URL, make a get request, and return the response. And then we just print out the response here. And one more thing we can do is there's this cool function in Python. You can import it from pprint, import pprint. And what it does, instead of just printing it in a single line, we can print stuff. So since we have a JSON, it will make it easier to read. Alright, so hopefully everything should work now. Let's go back to our main, and then we would just want to do bot get me. and then this should work. Okay, so we got a response, which is a 200, and that's success. And then basically what we want to do is here to print the JSON file that we got back. So if we run this again, actually sorry, if we run python3 main.py, here we go. So we have OK, which is the response message, and in result we have all of the values that they define in the available types user. So is bot true, username what we gave it, and then there's a first name and then a bunch of other stuff. Can join groups, can read all group messages, ID, a bunch of other things. So one more thing that is quite important here is ID, which is the chat ID in Telegram, and then we'll get to that later on when we want to send messages. Okay, so now this is the first thing we wanted to do here. Now that we can make a get me request and see if our auth token is valid. Next thing we want to do is to be able to send a message, and I think that would be it for this video. After we finish sending a message, and then we'll do the rest of the things in later videos. So let's just result raise for status. Let's just call it raise for status. So in case our status is not 200, which is when this is not a successful call, and then we will just return result JSON, and then we would want to return anything in the results field. So we can do whatever we want with it later. So one cool thing we can do is here is we would say result get me print this is result username. What happened? So we're having multiple of these here. So okay, run again. This is pizza dough. Perfect. Now our next thing we wanted to do is we say bot send message. We give it a okay. Let's first look at this in the bot API. So the second method that we have is send message, and what send message does is that it basically sends a message to someone in Telegram, and you can pass a bunch of parameters. So for example, chat ID, text, parse mode, disable web page view, disable notification, reply to message ID, reply markup, and then these are optional. And the two main ones that we actually care about right now is chat ID and text. So as it says, chat ID is what I said back here. So for example, the chat ID for this bot is this, and then when you want to send a message to a user, you need to have their chat ID, which we'll talk about how we can get it later. And then the text message, and then parse mode is how you want to parse it. So for example, you can do HTML, and then I think Markdown or something like that. So this is for HTML parse mode, and then there should be another one, yeah, Markdown. Yeah, you can do pass Markdown v2 here. All right, if we go back here, and then for now we would just want to pass chat ID and text. So going back to our bot API, we would want to add a def send message, and then let's ask for chat ID, text, and that would be it. So this one would be send a message. Actually, let's just do multiple line. So send a message to a user on Telegram. Parameter, we have chat ID, which would be unique identifier for our target, and then param text, which would be the string message. All right. Now these parameters are URL parameters, so they're not a JSON body. So let's see how we can send a URL parameter in Python request. So Python requests URL parameters. Okay, so you can pass it a params argument or request.post, and it will automatically turn into URL parameters. So how we want to do this is that we want to call self, well actually result equals self post request, and then we have a method which was send message, and then we have params which would be our parameters. So we have chat ID, and text, and we want to pass our chat ID and text as our URL parameters. So we need to add that here. So we have params, and we will set the default value to none. And again, we want to make a URL, so self base URL plus method, and then we have our params, and then what we want to do is return requests post URL is URL, and then we have params, our parameters. So what's wrong with this? Oh, unused variable. So now here, let's just print the print the response of our API call, and I think that should be it for sending messages. Now, going back to chat ID and how we can test this. So let's say we want to send a message to myself. We still don't know the chat ID, but for text we can say, hey there, how are you? So if you open up Telegram there and you search for chat ID, there are always a bunch of bots that come up, and what they do is just reply your chat ID back to you. So for example, this one that I just tested earlier, as soon as you pass it anything, just like hi, it will just tell you your chat ID. So my chat ID for this Telegram account that I have is this. We'll copy that, paste it here, and then one more important thing is that whenever you want to send a message to anyone on Telegram using your bot, they would have to start the bot before you're able to send a message. So even though it doesn't do anything, it just authenticates the bot to send messages to me basically. So I think I can just stop, or yeah, if I stop it, then I would not be getting any messages from this bot. So now hopefully if we run this and everything goes right, I should receive this message from our bot. So let's run this. There you go. As expected, we got the message over here, and we're able to send a message. And as we printed, our response was a 200. It had a 200 status, so that means it was successful, which I mean we already see here that we got a message from the bot. So that's looking perfect for now. So far we've been able to implement our the basics of our bot. We were able to get me and send a message, and then these two functions that we implemented are working correctly. So I think that would conclude this video for now. I think it was quite a good length. I think it's 20 minutes long, so something close to that. In the future videos, I will show you how to receive messages. So in case we say something to this bot, how we can receive it over here, and how we can do something about it. And then as we go forward, we can send messages, we can send videos. Going back to our Telegram bot, we can where was it? So the bot API, you can send inline queries. You can send inline. Oh, you can use inline bots. Well, I don't think I'll cover payments for now, but any basic feature that we could find useful for our cases. All right, hopefully you like this video and the way it was design basically like code along more than just showing you, hey, you can call this, you can call this. And hopefully if you liked it, please subscribe, like this video so it can get more attention, and see you soon in the next video.